You know what it might have been? It might have been an Omegaverse fan. Do you guys know about Omegaverse? Raise your hand in chat. Raise your hand if you know what Omegaverse is. Okay, so let me give you a really, oh yeah, Pepper. This is a really, like, simplistic variant. Oh, hi! Everybody's here. Hello. They got promoted ads. I have gotten an Omegaverse YouTube ad before for, like, somebody's Omegaverse book that they wrote that they had just published on Amazon self-publishing. I had a YouTube ad for that, like, 4 times in a row, and it's just, like, a black screen with, like, a man and a woman, like, embracing each other sexually, and it's like, I was his beta, he was my alpha, or like whatever the fuck they say. Omega, it's like, I was his omega, he was my alpha, but alas, something beta. So, a real quick understanding of what Omegaverse is. Please understand, this is like the most simplistic way to describe it. It goes so deep, it's so complicated. Oh, a new soup follow! Thank you, Opium? Opium. Hello, Opium. Pepper says, I started reading a comic, then suddenly it was Omegaverse, and I had already invested. So Omegaverse, it was originally, it's kind of two things that are one thing. Omegaverse is a sub-category of fanfiction, but also it's not fanfiction at the same time. So what it is it's basically like wolfpack dynamics, like, which are fake, by the way. We all know nowadays that the whole, like, alpha omega thing in wolfpacks is not real. That's not actually how they operate. But like, let's pretend that's still what we think is how it goes. And so it's like you got the alpha who's like, you know, the big man who's in charge. Yeah, I got schlong. And then you got the betas who are like, you know, below the alphas. And then you got the omegas who are like the uwu bottoms, okay? And so it's all about, like, so what it was originally was you take any fan fiction, so like, let's say Doctor Who, okay? And let's say you're really into Doctor Who, and so you have an episode of you write a fan fiction episode of Doctor Who where they all get turned into wolves, and then their wolvely omega alpha desires come. It's very sexual, you know? And so it's like, oh, I'm the doctor, and I'm an alpha, and who's one of the Doctor's companions? Rory, you're an omega, I must mount you. And it's like bullshit like that, and like they're all wolves. And so Omegaverse is if you take characters from a pre-existing thing, like fucking American Dragon Jake Long. It can be anything. You write a fan fiction about that thing, except they're wolves. It's just a fan fiction where all the characters are wolves. And it gets worse because then everybody really got into Omegaverse. So then people were writing their own stories, kind of like Warrior Cat stories. You guys know what Warrior Cats is, right? And so it was fully original characters in the Omegaverse. So now it's an original story, but it's in the Omegaverse, so it's not fan fiction. Are you following? It's just a story about wolves fucking each other. And there's so much, like fan fiction, though. Like, there's a lot of, like, Super Hulock Omegaverse was really big. If you don't know what Super Hulock is, that's its own thing. Also, like, One Direction Omegaverse was really big. And so, here's the thing. So then, people were really into, like, the whole, like, you know, like, the alpha, beta, everything, but they didn't But some people, not everyone, but some people didn't like that they were wolves, or they would be wolves and then they turn back human, but the desire would still be there. And so there's this other group of Omegaverse that spawned off and got super popular. That's the same exact concept of what I've just described to you, except they're not wolves, but they still have like the pack hunt hierarchy mentality, and there's like pheromones, and so it's like, ugh, I can't let anyone know that I'm secretly an Omega, so I disguise myself as a Beta so that nobody wants to mate with me. And it's like bullshit like that, but like they're not wolves anymore. Now they're just like human people, or it's still fan fiction. Like it's still the Doctor and Rory, and the Doctor is like a big strong alpha, not a wolf, just a man who's an alpha, and he's an alpha and he's walking around, and then Rory's like, oh, I can't let anyone know I'm an Omega, or else the alphas are gonna mate me. And so it's just bullshit like that. That is what and that is the most simplistic description of what Omega